Hi, my name is Mary Imasuen, and I do a lot. I'm the global marketing manager at Fedi, esports and operations support at Thunder Games, and producer at Global Bitcoin Fest. So I first had access to Bitcoin in 2015 when I was working as a freelance writer. One of my clients made this interesting request to pay me in Bitcoin. And I didn't know what Bitcoin was at the time, but luckily for me, my sister was doing research on Bitcoin. I think she even owned some Bitcoin at the time. And she told me that I should tell my client that I accept payment in Bitcoin. And she set up my first Bitcoin wallet, and I got paid in Bitcoin for my writing service. So fast forward to 2017, I decided to get more serious about my personal finance, and literally delve into that world and see how I can improve my approach to finance better. And that led me gradually to learn more about the blockchain, digital currencies at the time. But it was in 2019, 2020 when I came to this realization that I can't continue to um, share my experience about personal finance without having to also own some digital currencies of my own. So 2020, I got my first set of Bitcoin. I bought my first set of Bitcoin from an app called Luno, but I'm not a technical person, and to me, Luno seemed like a little too much. I desired something a lot easier to buy Bitcoin with. And so, luckily for me, it was as if my prayers were answered when I was awake at night at 2 a.m. in the morning. I was scrolling on Twitter and I came across this video of a beautiful looking app that said I could save in Bitcoin. And that app was BitNob. I downloaded the app, bought Bitcoin, created 3 Bitcoin savings plans, and went to bed. I woke up the next morning and to see that my Bitcoin was still there and that my saving plans were running. So that was literally the beginning of me dollar cost averaging Bitcoin. Then sometime, so I was actually so excited about this app that I decided to do a whole podcast episode reviewing the BitNob app. And lucky for me, the BitNob team saw my podcast. I used the opportunity to invite the CEO of BitNob, Bernard Para, to be on my podcast. And after the podcast recording, we had a nice discussion, and he asked if I could help with their podcast. And then I joined BitNob 2021 and hosted the Knobcast, which is BitNob's Bitcoin podcast. And from there, I started learning more about Bitcoin, interviewing Bitcoin maxis, and I realized that, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. Bitcoin is the way, and I've been a Bitcoin maxi ever since. So I actually coined the term Bitcoin Lifestyle Hacker from my belief that it is a good thing to incorporate Bitcoin into your daily life. And by that, I mean doing activities that will either help you earn in Bitcoin or to spend Bitcoin to buy things. So literally just living on the fiat standard. So for those who don't know, when you say someone's living on the fiat standard, they're literally living on Bitcoin. So I got obsessed with looking for different Bitcoin platforms that enable people to do this. So I'm talking about like the Bitrefills of the world. So say, for example, you're someone who likes to read the newspaper in the morning. So after your 30 minutes of reading the paper, you can literally infuse or give yourself like 10 minutes to read a couple of articles from the Bitcoin Magazine app and earn some Bitcoin for doing that. If you're the kind of person who works out, you can use S Miles and connect your Apple Watch or your Google Watch to the app and earn Bitcoin for exercising. If you're the kind of person that does yoga or want to make it a regular practice, for instance, you can use an app like Dailiness, where you will clock in every time you do like a daily practice or you're trying to keep a good habit, and the app gives you BTC points, which is paid in Bitcoin. Or you're the kind of person who commutes and your commute takes an hour. So instead of just sitting down and not doing anything during your commute, you can play a Bitcoin game. So if you play like one of the games by Thunder Games, you're earning Bitcoin while you are on your commute. Or if you're the kind of person that, buys like data plans, instead of buying your data plan from your normal source, you can buy it over on Bitterfill. So the list goes on. And that for me was just literally something that I wanted to share with people. And in the area of it influencing my daily life and my financial choices, it was more like, how can I optimize my life in such a way that is able to earn Bitcoin for me? And that switch in my mindset has really opened me up to making smart choices, finding smart ways to integrate Bitcoin, and just literally use my life as a way to stack sats. So for me, I think I would consider myself really lucky. I never felt any, difficulty in being a woman in Bitcoin. The Bitcoin space has been really supportive, and they have really encouraged me to not only speak up about my beliefs around Bitcoin and pick up interesting Bitcoin projects, but it also got me to learn more about Bitcoin. And it's been a really nurturing space for me. Just remember what I say. So when it comes to empowering women economically, I think that there is a huge role that Bitcoin plays in this. For example, I worked in a human rights office, and I have witnessed a lot of cases come in on a regular basis of women being abused. They would go through like horrible treatment from family, husbands, even, neighbors and things like that. And sometimes would see women who would come in with bruises, and even pregnant women having bruises all over their bodies. And anytime I and my colleagues would ask them, like, why are you still in that house? Why are you in the presence of so much abuse? Like, why didn't you just pack your bags and leave that environment and save yourself? All of the women said that if they left that space, that environment, their home, they would not have enough money to take care of themselves or take care of their children. And so they chose to stay in such abusive environments so that they can have a roof over their head and that their kids are able to go to school and have something to eat. So what that means is that when a woman is economically empowered, she can protect herself from such horrible circumstances. And this is where Bitcoin can play a huge role. So if you imagine you being a woman and you understand Bitcoin, you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can literally either start something, a trade, or like offer a freelance service or be a virtual assistant and say, hey, I accept payment in Bitcoin. And you can earn this Bitcoin and keep it in your Bitcoin wallet, and then know that, hey, I can leave this abusive environment because I now have money to do so. There could also be circumstances where a woman can say, hey, I can put out like an SOS. I need help. If anyone is open to donating, like, here's my Lightning address, and there would be people who would be able to like help or donate, and these women could get out of those abusive circumstances. I could go on and on. Like Bitcoin could play a major role in helping these women from such difficult circumstances and protect them in that way. So I believe that as we let women know more about these opportunities that they can have through Bitcoin, we would be saving a lot of women because not many women were able to survive such ordeal. Remember what I say. So one thing about being a content creator is that a lot of content creators depend heavily on platforms like YouTube, like their blog, like Twitch, like Kick, all these different platforms. And what happens is that these creators create content, put in a lot of effort into editing and all that. Like this video, I filmed it 3 times. This is the 3rd time I'm filming it. And there are people who are who have even invested a lot of money in equipment and all that in the hope that they will be able to build their following on their viewer base to a point where these platforms will pay them a portion of the ad spend. But sadly, the amount that's paid to them is in peanuts. These companies leverage on their content to put out ads, and at the end of the day, the person who has the bad end of the stick is the content creator. But with Bitcoin, you can literally create content today, and there will be people out there who will who can zap you, and zap is more like sending you Bitcoin, can send you Bitcoin for the content that you create, or can tip you for your content. And it's happening on platforms like Nostr. So what happens in such instances that the content creator gets 100% of the money that is sent to them. The only like fraction that goes out is like for charges, and it's just minimal, but 100% goes to the creator. It doesn't go to the platform, and that is literally incredible. And the beauty about this is that as a content creator, you can create content that you enjoy creating. You can create content that means something to you. When you post content on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, most creators create content for the algorithm. And when you create content for the algorithm, it tends to take away from you a good amount of your creative freedom, your mode of expression, because you are a slave to the algorithm and how it works. But what Bitcoin does, aside from empowering the creator, is that it allows you to create content that you believe in, and that we, as the consumers of this content, are able to vote for your content with our money. And it is not the algorithm dictating whether your content is good or not. It's not whether this content will have a lot of views that's going to dictate whether someone will send you a tip on with Bitcoin or not. You are not creating content for visibility. You're creating content that you love and that you believe in. So now it is you who's putting in your 100%, like that essence, that soul, that part of you out there, instead of you just scrambling to please a bunch of code. Oh my gosh, that's a good question. First of all, allow me to just lay this premise that I am a multi-passionate person. As a multi-passionate person, I do not thrive by focusing only on one thing. it does not light me up. But when I focus my attention on other things that I'm interested in, it makes me excited. I feel more driven to do my work, contribute more, I'm more creative, more excited about what I'm doing. And I know that there are people out there like me. I know that there are some people who have like ADHD, who can also relate to this. So I know that when people like ask me what I do, or when I'm asked to like introduce myself, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you do so many things. I want to be like you." And I'm like, we are all built differently. So this message is it's for people who are more or less like me, who derive joy from pursuing their multiple passions. And I hope these tips will help you. So one of the things I do is to time block. So I have specific times for certain things, and I try as much as I can to stick to those times. That has helped me to be very focused on what specific work I'm doing and how much time I'm allocating to that work. Even though I'm into a lot of things, there are things that I've set as priority over others, right? So that is how I allocate my time. The second thing that I do is to use the Pomodoro technique. So Pomodoro is like you have this timer that goes off every 25 to 50 minutes, and then you have a 5-minute break in between. So within the 25 minutes or 50-minute time period, you are forced to focus on one thing and do that thing effectively and really well. And then you take a 5-minute break, and then you can switch over to something else and focus 25 to 50 minutes on that thing, and then so on and so forth. And that has really helped a lot, because you're not distracted from other things. You're like you've zeroed in on one thing, because you know that the time constraint is like really low. So you are going to do everything you can to make sure that that work or that task is complete. Another thing that I do is, so even though I'm a multi-passionate person, the truth is that what I engage myself in always have a common like common threads or like common characteristics to each other. So what I do is that I allow every project to feed into the other one, in terms of, so if I'm doing project A and project A, B, C, D are related in some way, right? So in my case, it would be more of community. So since they're all related in the area of community, so what I ask myself when I do these tasks is, what can I learn from here that will positively impact B, and it'll positively impact C, and then go back and forth. So because my mind is constantly working on how to improve, the improvement sort of spills into the others as well. So the quality of the projects or things I'm excited about don't suffer, because I'm constantly thinking of how to make everything better from what I learned in from the other projects. And then the next thing I would say is to be brave enough to drop things when it becomes too much. I know it sounds like counterintuitive, especially when I mentioned that, when you're multi-passionate and you derive joy from doing multiple things, but it's also important to look within yourself and ask yourself what you feel is something that defines you, that you believe in, that you want to pursue, that you are ready to follow through to the end, and then leave the ones that is not a hell yes, right? So don't be afraid to weed those things out. And it was a slow process for me, but eventually I am I am a lot more satisfied with the few that I'm looking at than with the multiple ones that was on my plate. So I'm a lot happier now. But yeah, then overall, just have fun and enjoy what you're doing. I think if you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm gonna face this thing today, like then that you're not meant to do that thing. Um, or if every Friday you're like, oh, TGIF, then you know that something is wrong. Like you're probably doing something or you're engaged in something that doesn't light you up. So yeah, I think those are the things that I would advise, especially for those who are multi-passionate like myself. What I say, I mean, I've seen a lot of different use cases. I think the two that really jump up to me are one, AI and Bitcoin. Like, it is really incredible how those two can even work together. So, at the time recording this, we have the AI for All hackathon that's running, and the AI for All hackathon was organized by Fedi and Stack. And this hackathon was focused on democratizing AI with Bitcoin. So there are really interesting projects out there that were able to combine AI and Bitcoin. And that is really exciting to me because even like now that AI is trending with all the what's happening in ChatGPT and all the other AI systems out there, it's really exciting to see that Bitcoin has a strong use case in those places. And for those who are curious, like Bitcoin's use case in AI are one majorly like help solve the chargeback issues. So when you make a payment online with your card, there are things happening behind the scenes, right? So the money doesn't get transferred to the company that offers the service directly. It has to go through some middlemen, let's call them that. And so when the payment is made, it is recorded to you that you have access to maybe ChatGPT 4, which is the paid version of ChatGPT. But to the company that is receiving the payment, there are times when something happens between the middleman and the company. And in such a case, like the money doesn't get to the company directly. So that is like usually a chargeback issue. I know I'm not explaining chargeback in its technical sense. I tried to break it down as much as I could, but when you have that chargeback issue, the company, although they've offered the service to you, they weren't paid for that service, because so they have to, at the behind the scenes, they have to settle the dispute between the payment processor and themselves. So that can be a headache. I used to work at a law firm, and the law firm had like a client that dealt with a lot of chargeback issues. So I know like it can be a lot. But with Bitcoin, you do not experience chargeback issues. Like the company gets the payment directly because they don't have to deal with any middleman, right? Once you pay the invoice, it goes straight to your Bitcoin wallet. Then for the person who's buying buying the service, so I live in Lagos, Nigeria, and our debit cards do not allow us to do international transactions, meaning that if I wanted to pay for Midjourney or ChatGPT, I can't use my debit cards, meaning that I'm completely cut off from using the pro version or the premium version of these AI systems. So because I'm completely cut off, I do not have the opportunity to try these systems out. But with Bitcoin, it would make it really easy for me to just make payment, via Bitcoin, and I do not have to deal with like the policy that prevents me from using my debit card. So that's just like different instances where Bitcoin solves a problem in the AI space. So it's really exciting to see the projects that are coming out. The second use case that I love a lot is the Bitcoin and gaming use case. And I'm really passionate about it because games are a low friction way of getting people into Bitcoin. So I'm half Filipino, and the Philippines was burnt badly by Axie Infinity. There were some Filipinos who took out a loan from the bank to buy these in-game assets, you know, from Axie Infinity to win the game so that they can make more money and all that. And when Axie Infinity went bust, like that was the end of all the money that they put into the game, and it was just a utter disaster. Some people even lost their lives. They couldn't deal with the outcome, you know, which is really sad. So now with like Bitcoin games, at least it is possible for people to play games and win some Bitcoin and know that Bitcoin has utility. Like they can get what they win from these Bitcoin games and actually buy something meaningful. One of the posts that I really like from Zebedee is the posts that they put up of some of their users who was able to buy like pay for groceries with the Bitcoin that they earned from games, pay for their bills, buy like keyboards and stuff, which is really exciting to see. Then also like from the Africa perspective, there's this guy named Okin, and he mentioned that he uses the money that, or rather the Bitcoin that he earns from games to pay for call credits. So it is really exciting to see that people who play games can actually use the Bitcoin for something really meaningful for them, and it's very exciting. And so that's a use case that I love looking into and exploring. And I think there is so much depth in Bitcoin and gaming that we're just literally scratching the surface, because the gaming industry is it runs into several billions of dollars worth of like in value, right? Like a lot of money spent in gaming. And if we as Bitcoiners can sort of win a section of these people to Bitcoin, it could literally revolutionize a lot of things, because people who spend time playing these games can actually get something of true value. So those are two use cases I'm really excited about. I don't believe I can. Just remember what I say. So, like I mentioned, I'm not a technical person, and I was really skeptical about Bitcoin. That's why I'm really grateful that I learned about Bitcoin from people I could trust, like my sister, who told me to accept payments and to accept to be paid in Bitcoin. So I get it. I get the concern, but the beauty about it is that at the end of the day, Bitcoin has value. There are places that you can readily spend your Bitcoin, right? Unlike other cryptocurrencies. So let's say, for example, someone can wake up today and say, I'm going to create this cryptocurrency and it's going to go to the moon. The hassle that you have to go through in order to convert that cryptocurrency into fiat that you can spend is just so long. But when you get access to Bitcoin, and there are places that you can readily spend this Bitcoin. There are shops and merchants that accept Bitcoin. There are online platforms that would accept your Bitcoin. So you don't even have to convert it into fiat in order for you to use it. Then, look at what the fiat system has brought to us. It brought like a lot of hardship and, confusion and problems. And I know it sounds kind of political, but say, for example, so like I said, I'm half Filipino. I send money home, and I can't even begin to imagine, or I can't even begin to tell you the experiences that I've witnessed my parents go through in order to send money to the Philippines. When I was growing up, my mom used to take like this, those pictures that they develop. So she would take one picture, put the dollar in between, and then take another picture and then wrap it in carbon paper, put it in an envelope, and then sellotape that envelope, and then my dad would take the envelope and post it, and then you just hope and pray that the envelope gets to the Philippines without anybody like cutting through the envelope and taking the money and then seal it back, because it happens. So it's just major risk. But now when it was my aunt's birthday some days ago, and I sent her money on her birthday, and it just came instantly. And it's incredible. And every time I do that, like, I get super emotional because I remember where I'm coming from, and how difficult it was. So Bitcoin is something that would literally revolutionize your life, whether you are, especially if you're a creative. I have a soft spot for creatives. So like I mentioned, like, the current fiat systems aren't helping. You're being exploited for the content that you put out there, in all honesty and truth. But with Bitcoin, you can afford to be your own person. You can determine the kind of content you want to create, and you do not have to silence yourself or modify your words in order to please the algorithm. And that is like literally true freedom. Also, from the financial side, believe it or not, the value of your currency is reducing every single day. I am based in Nigeria. And when I first came to Nigeria, so there are some shops that measure like beans in a can. So if you just imagine any like baked beans can, so they would measure beans in a can. So like the biggest tin was 50 naira for beans. When I say it, people don't believe. They're like, what? That never happened in Nigeria. And I'm so serious. When I first came to Nigeria, one derica, that's one tin, was 50 naira. One derica of beans was 50 naira. Now, one derica of beans, I don't know, I think it should be 400, 400 naira, or if not more now. Like, I don't know. I don't even buy those beans anymore because it's ridiculously expensive. So it's expensive because the value of our currency has gone down. So it makes no sense to work so hard, and at the end of the month you receive your paycheck, and then you put your money in the bank, and the bank is charging you for card maintenance fees, account maintenance fees, stamp duty and all that. And imagine saving your money for the next 10 years. Your bank is eating at your money. The value of your currency, the currency is constantly devaluing. Inflation is going up. At the end of 10 years, the money that you worked so hard to save will be worthless. But if you are diligently saving in Bitcoin, even if it's $1 worth of Bitcoin every single day, the value of that Bitcoin will increase over time. Yes, a lot of people will be like, oh, but the price of Bitcoin goes down and goes up and it goes down. But when you zoom out of the charts, like if you have ever seen the Bitcoin chart, when you zoom out, you see that over the years, even though it has dips, it has gone up over the years, right? And it makes perfect financial sense to put your money in that because it's increasing in value. There's this statistic that I like referring to. So $1 in the 1800s is now worth $23 today. So $1 in the 1800s was worth $23 today, meaning that you need 23 $1 put together in order to get the equivalent value of $1 about over 200 years ago. It's crazy. So Imagine if you had been saving all that while your great grandfather has been saving all that time. Your money is literally trash right now. So yeah, those are the different perspectives that I would present. And when I realized this, I started making the gradual transition to saving more in Bitcoin, finding ways to earn in Bitcoin, use all these Bitcoin lifestyle apps, because every single Satoshi is is valuable. So yeah. So when you nurture something, it grows healthily. And when I look back at my journey in Bitcoin, and I look back at all the Twitter spaces I joined, all the different articles I read, all the podcasts I listened to, this helped me grow as a Bitcoiner, helped me grow as a woman in my life. So when you create this supportive environment for women within the Bitcoin space, it helps them become a better person, in the sense that they are more financially aware. I don't think I've ever met a Bitcoiner who has no idea about personal finance, or who isn't following really good financial, make financial choices. I've not seen any Bitcoiner who is very foolish with their money. And that's because knowing Bitcoin and understanding Bitcoin and how it works and why it came into existence turns a light switch in your head, and you start seeing the world and everything differently. And it also helps you prepare for the future, right? So when the price of Bitcoin goes down, you don't panic, because you see these dips in the price of Bitcoin as an opportunity to stack more sats. And because you know that in the future, the price of Bitcoin will go up and it's going to be really valuable. So creating an environment where women get to learn this and harness those skills, it's going to help the world as a whole, because these women are going to have children, and their first teacher of every child is the mother and the father. So when you have a woman who is financially literate, and a woman who understands the importance of long times preference, you are literally creating a legacy, and this child starts to become more financially aware as well. And eventually that knowledge gets to touch a lot of other people. So there are some Bitcoiners in this space who share the journey of their kids as their children learn more about Bitcoin. And you can see they're already a lot more financially aware than their classmates in school. And I think that is the kind of legacy that you want to leave behind. And so it's so important to create that space where this information is readily available to women, because they're going to disseminate it to more people. And the more people learn about this, the more we can all be financially free together.
Proudly brought to you by Bitcoin Dada.